I'm gonna be honest, I don't think there's a person alive right now that read this Bleach one-shot, No Breaths from Hell, New Breaths from Hell, whatever, just the Hell arc beginning, that wasn't just absolutely impressed. I don't think there's anybody that could just come in here and say that this was a bad one-shot, this wasn't good, it was trash, anything like that, because this shit was phenomenal and a great start for whatever's to come with Bleach, because as I said, if you missed the video, you should go check it out where I just kind of gave the announcement of all this. This ended off as a cliffhanger. There's going to be more Bleach moving forward, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy about it because, like, again, we was at a time for a decade pretty much, you know, a decade of no anime, and then it's been about 5 years with August now that there was no manga. So, like, we just thought, okay, it's a wrap for Bleach. It's over. It's done. And for them to come out with this and Kubo to come out swinging from the color pages to the panels to the story, the fight, like, I am very, very impressed, very, very hype, and just in general, it's really dope to see Bleach return. It's really dope to see it in this fashion, especially. So, without further ado, people, let's talk a little bit of this Bleach one-shot.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Okay, people, so just quickly, because I already talked about it, but just in general, one more time, I gotta say that this cover color page looks phenomenal, awesome. I absolutely love it, seeing, you know, Ichigo and his new up-to-date look, and in general, all the captains and characters, like, it is awesome. This chapter, in general, this one-shot, made sure it tried to showcase and include any and everyone from Bleach, which also makes me think that whatever's to come with Bleach, again, like I said, it's probably going to be just a few one-shots. I don't expect ever for Bleach to come back weekly, and if it did come back, I would imagine that they will put it in V-Jump along with Boruto and Dragon Ball Super as like a monthly thing, but I just don't see it because, again, like, a lot was comprised in this one shot, as if, like, yeah, it's not going to be around that long, so he wanted to show damn near every character that you could think of in the Bleach verse, and it kind of reminded me, like, shit, there's a lot of characters in Bleach to show. But the chapter opens up with a really interesting monologue, and I was kind of wondering, was that talking about Kazui? Was that talking about Ichigo's son? Was that Ichigo's son narrating in the beginning when he was saying about when I was younger, I had a goldfish, or I had 2 goldfish, and one of them died, but it turned out well because the other one was able to survive and get big and all that stuff. I was wondering, like, was that Kazui? And if so, why was he talking about when he was younger? Like, fam, you're a little kid. That was something to note that kind of made me wonder, like, maybe this is leading into a Bleach spinoff about Kazui, and this is giving a flashback to when he was younger and had his first big adventure, a la like Boruto, how that started off. That could be. Just saying. Either way, really interesting way to start a one-shot. And basically, Orihime was checking in on Kazui, making sure that he's asleep, and he's pretending to be asleep there with Kon, and oh man, it was just like, it felt very like surreal to see Ichigo's son, and you know, he's faking sleeping because he's going off on an adventure, and seeing Kon along with him. Fam, it's been a while. Only OG ForneverWorld fans remember the very cringy little skits I used to do with this damn Kon book bag for Bleach. Only OG ForneverWorld fans know what time it is when it comes to this shit. Damn, now that I think about it, I used to have a lot of fun with those. I used to have Zanpakuto toes, the Urahara hat. Shit, I did it up. But apparently Kazui was going to meet a lost soul. Basically, it seemed as though he was trying to exorcise a soul, or basically get it to the Soul Society, because Kon following him, he brings the soul, which, it was funny, somebody did a joke and they used the panel and turned it into, like, apparently that's me. Kazui's like, yo, what's going on for that world? I can't believe it's you. Yeah, okay, I'm in the Bleach one shot, I guess. But Kazui claps his hands after he guides the soul to a certain place. I think it was like some sort of shrine. He claps his hands and like a portal opens, and it looks as though he was taking the soul over to the Soul Society, which honestly, Kazui looks already really hacked. If he's able to clap his hands and open up portals to the Soul Society, this dude is going to be very, very strong. And if we do get some spin-off down the road about him and Ichika, or just him in general, this is going to be interesting because this dude is strong as shit. Like, yeah, how are you opening up portals? You're like a little shrimp. Like, what? But then we cut to 3 hours earlier. We see Ichika, and man, I don't know, maybe it's just because, again, we haven't had Bleach in so freaking long, but it was just really a treat to see, again, Kazui, you know, see how strong he is. And then we cut to Ichika, and she's training with Ikkaku. I was like, oh, this is really a joy to read. But apparently she was like late to training with Ikkaku, and Ikkaku like is real rough with her. He calls her you little shit. Well, with the translation I read, he's like, you little shit, and he keeps calling her that like 2 or 3 different times. Like, it makes sense though, I guess it would be, right? Ikaku would be the type that he would be like hard body about it, but at the same time, you know, he has a soft spot, otherwise he wouldn't be training her to begin with. And you see that Ichika, she's strong-willed, but then at the same time, she's still a kid. And Ikaku brings up about her going to the land of the living, and apparently she hasn't gone in a while because she's only allowed to go when she's on long breaks, otherwise she doesn't go there. And I ain't gonna lie, it was kind of interesting, or funny for that matter, when Ikaku brought up about Kazui, like Ichigo's kid, and she's like, oh, it's not like that, why would you even say that between me and Kazui? Yo, Kazui, you doing the damn thing, huh? You doing the damn thing. Although, to be fair, between the two, Kazui looks a lot more innocent. Like, he looks like a very innocent kid in comparisons, because you know the comparisons are coming. The Boruto and Kazui comparisons are going to arrive. Kazui just seems like a really, really innocent kid in comparison to Boruto, Sarada Mitsuki, any of the characters for that matter from, you know, the new gen of Boruto. And Ichika kind of feels a little more innocent than that, but just like maybe a little rascal. You could argue maybe because they appear to be a little bit younger than the cast of the Boruto Naruto Next Generation story. But I don't know, Kazui seemed real innocent to me. So with the whole Ichika thing, like, she probably was looking at Ikaku like, fam, I'm like 7. Or, well, no, actually, technically, I guess she would be 12, right? Because the 1,000-Year Blood War was 12 years before this, unless they waited. Which, now I think about it, isn't Boruto and them? Yeah, Boruto and them joining in the academy, they had to have been like 12. So they might be the same age, I don't know. But then I guess this is a new captain or a new vice captain. Chika arrives and kind of talks to Ikaku there. And then Renji's on the phone, which it's freaking hilarious to see Renji in the Soul Society on a phone. But this chapter also introduced the whole idea that technology has infiltrated the Soul Society thanks to Urahara and shit like that. But he's on the phone and he's talking to none other than, and we get that really awesome panel and page of him, Ichigo Kurosaki, and he's talking about the Soul festivities, the Soul Festival, where this festival takes place 12 years after a captain dies. And they recently did Yamamoto's, they did Unohana's, and now it's Ukitake's turn, which, goddamn, man, that 1,000-Year Blood War, a lot of people really died. It's kind of crazy to think the captain commander, you know, it feels like forever ago for us as well, because it's been 5 freaking years since the manga ended. I want to say it was like 2012 when Yamamoto died and shit, but wow. And then Ukitake, now they're trying to do the ceremony for him. And I ain't gonna lie, when I first heard the details of how they do the ceremony, it did sound a little bit like, huh? Like, this sounds a little barbaric. Maybe I could see the Kenpachis doing some shit like this, but in general, I guess it also makes sense because they, you know, said that it was an old tradition or whatever. But basically, grabbing a hollow and then sacrificing it to the grave of shit. Like, who came up with that whole idea to begin with, if you think about it, and how it ties into everything with the setup of how this chapter went. And also, again, to note, this takes place 12 years after the 1,000-Year Blood War, so it's a very big time skip. I wonder how long this is after the end of Bleach, though. Like, is this just a month or whatever? Because remember, the end of Bleach also time skipped forward, so Kazui looks like he might be a little bit older. But yeah, that was kind of interesting to note. And I heard rumors that this actually takes place at the same time as Burn the Witch, because Burn the Witch takes place 12 years after the end of Bleach or something like that. And we see that Ichigo is at his friend Keigo's ramen restaurant, Spirit Ramen, which Kubo always tried to keep them involved in the story, Ichigo's classmates. I never really cared for them, to be honest with you. Like, I never was like, oh yeah, you know, his regular friends, because they just kind of like existed. And I think they had like one role at the end of the Aizen stuff, and once in a blue they would be there, but they just kind of always, to me personally, felt like, why are they being, you know, looked at as like they're important? Like, they have nothing really, like they're just regular human friends. But I guess that was also for Ichigo's character in general, to showcase his normal living world life and his crazy Soul Society life and shit like that, the duality. So I guess that's why Kubo always kept that in, but I just never was a big fan of them. But hey, shout outs to him still keeping them around. He always wanted that to be a part of Ichigo's life, and we know that Ichigo chose in the end basically like to live like a regular human. And he's at Keigo's ramen shop, which is, again, weirdly enough, called Spirit Ramen. Like, bitch, what are you trying to say? That you trying to put out the secrets? Don't get snuffed out. No. But Renji is calling Ichigo to invite him to the Spirit festivities, the Spirit Festival, and we even get to see Rukia, and Rukia is now with a side ponytail. If you ever watch my Bleach reviews, you know that Rukia was my fave. Rukia, Yoruichi, like, Bleach just had so many badass females and shit, but Rukia, when she went Bankai, oh my god, I'll never forget how much I lost it, fam. Oh, and it's cool to see her new design. And they start to talk more about this new Reaper technology, how, like, they have TVs in the Soul Society now that they can watch programming from the world of the living. And they even got cancel culture over there in the Soul Society, because Rukia labeled Orihime doing laundry as moral harassment. Like, why? But apparently, again, all of this technology is due to Urahara. Ever since the end of the war, he's been developing a lot of technological advancements over there in the Soul Society, so kind of seems like he's been busy. And it makes sense because, like, think about it, remember, he was on the run for how long after they framed him and everything, all the way back back in the day. So he came back because, you know, things were probably peaceful for the last 12 years or so. Instead of him just sitting around or whatever, like, okay, let's advance the, you know, Soul Society. Although I don't know if that would necessarily be a good thing. And now that I think about it, like, probably Mayuri, the way he feels about things regarding Urahara, is not only out of jealousy and like, oh, you know, he's outdoing me and shit like that. Also, like, is that necessarily going to be the best thing, to have that much of a connection and that much of a closeness between Soul Society and the world of the living? Because we get a hologram showcasing of Mayuri. Again, throughout this chapter, we just seen like everybody, but Mayuri shows up, and I think we even see like Shinji there, and he's like grossed out, like, oh my god, you know, the hologram of Mayuri. And Mayuri's like, yo, everybody, we're going to the land of the living, so the festival is about to begin. And again, it was just nice to see Mayuri and his creepy ass, and even though he's hating on Urahara and shit, it was just really nice to see. And in the background, of course, Ichika is listening in because, you know, she's a little girl and she want to follow her father and stuff. And fam, we even got to see Soifun and Omaida and everything. Like, I'm not a big Omaida fan, but I was a big Soifun fan too. Like, we just saw everybody. And then there's apparently a new vice captain that they made a pretty big deal in this chapter, Atau, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to say Atau was like, couldn't speak and like spoke with sign language or something like that. But that was definitely a notable addition, because there was a few new additions to Bleach, which is kind of crazy considering, like, when I first heard about this one shot, I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, a nice little quaint relic of like, hey, remember Bleach? But the fact that there was so many things that were introduced, including new characters like this vice captain of the 7th division, Atau, I was like, whoa. And we even got to see Kensei and Hisagi, and kind of made me think like, damn, yo, Takashi 69 really stole the 6ix9ine from Hisagi. That's wild. And we see that Ichika, again, she's going to be following her dad because she's like, it's not fair they get to go and not me. So, you know, classic, you know, the kids in the background trying to get into it, you know, getting into mischief, so to speak, while the adults are doing big things. And then when we cut to that panel and we see Ichigo and Renji, and they're like floating over, you know, the world of the living because they're about to begin the festivities. And just looking at that panel, that was one of my favorite ones, of just seeing again like the new age, you know, the up-to-date Bleach characters, but nevertheless just seeing them again in a manga. It just felt surreal. It felt unreal. I couldn't believe, honestly, just seeing that panel of the two of them standing there together. I was like, wow. And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, that Ichigo's job was a translator. Maybe I'm off on that and I was misreading it. Maybe Asao is a translator or something like that, but I believe they said that Ichigo's job is a translator, or he said he was a translator, which doesn't make much sense because he wasn't able to translate what Asao was saying. But it could be that he translates maybe English and Japanese or something. I don't know. That was a little bit unclear for me, but if it was, that's a very big deal. Like, Ichigo's job as a translator, that's something different. When the hell do you hear a main shonen character end his series and be like, yo, I went on to be a translator and shit? Again, assuming that that's what that was and it wasn't something else with the other characters there. And then they even were keeping up to date with what's going on in the world right now, because over there in Japan, one of the big things is that girls are liking to have tans, and it's something like a little culture that they got going on over there. Because then they introduced another vice captain, this time I want to say of the 8th division, Yayaharu, and it was like a big joke because she's just basically like a modern girl from society now, which again, Kubo keeping things up to date. Like, if we're putting this out in 2021, it feels like Bleach in 2021. It doesn't feel like Bleach in 05 or Bleach in 2010. Like, Kubo made sure, like, okay, this is what's going on in culture right now, let me bring it to my manga. And it's also kind of interesting as well when Yayaharu wants a picture with Ichigo, because that shows that, yeah, he is a big war hero. Like, they even talked about it a little bit. He's a big war hero because obviously he saved the Soul Society from the invasion of Yawatch, Juhabak, and all that jazz. So yeah, Ichigo's kind of like famous over there in Soul Society. I would love to see him show up in front of like just a bunch of random people in Soul Society and see how they act. Like, are they gonna act the same way like, you know, people in Konoha were acting with Naruto? But we cut to Ichika. She made it over there. She snuck her little rascal self through, and immediately right there she sees a giant skeleton behind Ichigo and her father, and she's like, yo, what's going on? Wait, watch out. And I'd imagine Renji just probably looked like, what the fuck are you doing here? Are you kidding me right now? And it also made me wonder, why is it that Ichigo was able to see the skeleton and nobody else? Is we got a lot of exposition about this whole Reishi and Reiatsu and all that jazz. Like, nobody could sense his Reiatsu, nobody could see it or anything like that except Ichika. But it knocks Renji into a building. I'm like, god damn, it's been 5 years since we've seen Renji, and the first time we see him in any type of action, he's getting thrown into buildings. Really, Kubo? Why you gotta do Renji like that? Like, what? And that shit even started stabbing through people and shit. One of the, I want to say it was the vice captain or something like that, got stabbed through it. I'm like, well, damn, Kubo, Kubo, okay. And of course, Renji is upset that Ichika is there to begin with, because now, you know, he can't fight full force. He gotta worry about and be there concerned that his daughter's right there. And it makes it even more interesting the fact that these hollows don't have any Reiatsu, so that's obviously why they weren't able to sense them to begin with. But then again, if they don't have no Reiatsu and nobody could see them, then why was Ichika able to see them? Unless it just genuinely was like, hey, they couldn't see them and they couldn't sense them, but like if they would have turned around, maybe they would have saw it, because then eventually they are able to see it. And then we see one of the newly introduced characters, Asau, and he starts using this hawk power and like summons a bunch of hawks to attack it and shit. And I was like, that looks really cool. And again, this is a newer character. I don't know why Kubo is deciding, unless again it's going to be something that there's a big Bleach revival down the road, not only the anime but maybe a full-on ongoing manga to come or something like that. But again, this guy, he had cool new hawk powers, and just in general, like if this was just going to be a one shot, maybe a couple of one shots, because again there's going to be a little bit more, if this was just a couple of one shots, why introduce new characters with cool powers and all this shit and not just stick with like, you know, Toshiro and all the characters we already know? There's a lot of characters in Bleach, and we even see like the tanned one, Yayaharu, she's fighting and shit, grabbing a hollow by the mouth when it's trying to chew her down and stuff. Like everybody was throwing down. And I ain't gonna lie, when I saw Kita show up, because I'll never forget in the 1,000-Year Blood War, the moment that it started to ring off for me and showcase this might be one of the most epic arcs in all of Bleach, was when Kita got blasted in half. And then eventually I believe he came back later as like half cyborg and shit. But when I saw Kita in this chapter, I was like, okay, Kubo, you showing everybody, even the victims of the 1,000-Year Blood War. And then we get that speech text, which I ain't gonna lie, at first I'm thinking like, oh my god, who is it going to be? Is it going to be like Aizen, like his back or whatever? And they're like, so lonely, it's nice to see you, Renji. And it's Zailaparo Grants, one of the, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the Espadas, like Espada number 9. Damn, if I'm right about that, that'd be crazy. I want to say he was Espada number 9. And yeah, when I just saw him, I was like, holy shit. Very reminiscent. I don't know how many people actually read it back in the day, but when we had the 4th Bleach movie that came out, which kind of addressed Hell as well, was it called Hellverse? I want to say it was called Hellverse. We actually had a one shot where some of the villains came back from Hell, and I think it was like disregarded. It wasn't actually in the canon of the, you know, Bleach story or whatever, but it did something along the lines of that. So when I saw Zailaparo Grants, I'm like, oh shit, Kubo's using that idea but actually making it canonical this time. And he's like, yeah, I said I wanted to see you, Renji, but in reality I'm kind of looking for that little Quincy, that little scrawny motherfucker. He's talking about Uryu and Mayuri, because if I'm not mistaken, they were the ones, like Mayuri used his Bankai on him to take him down, and Uryu was the one that took him down as well, like together. So him saying like, I want to see Renji, like, no, you probably want to see the dudes that sent you to hell to begin with. And then we get more of an explanation of being sent to hell. Like, you know, he was kind of almost glorifying it in a way, like, I don't have the hole in my body anymore, now the hole is external, so it kind of gives like that circular, almost like a halo in the back of them. And you know Renji's gonna go savage, right? Like, I'm sure you know that, because when Zailaparo Grants is like, what is that thing behind you? Like, what is that? And he's talking about Ichika, and Ichika's hiding there. You can tell, again, she's a little kid at the end of the day. She's scared, like, I want my daddy at that particular point. And when he says, yo, the Warden of Hell sees everything, which, if I remember correctly, I want to say he was also the Warden of Hell when we got that whole, you know, Bleach one shot. Again, it was so long ago, I can't really remember, but I want to say that was the case. So when we see that, and he's like, oh, that's your daughter, Renji Ibar, I was like, oh my god, like, yo. Because he's like, I'm gonna start things off by killing your daughter. And fam, you know Renji's probably gotta be pissed. Like, this is my kid, fam, we don't do this. Like, what are you doing? But then Ichigo shows up, slashing him away and telling Renji to take his daughter to safety. So classic. And right there, that panel when Ichigo shows up and does that, straight up look like his father, straight up look like Ishin. I hope we get to see Ishin as well. Like, there's still a few characters we didn't get to see in this one. Yoruichi, we heard about him, but we didn't see Urahara. We haven't seen Ishin yet. There's a lot that still can be done. And then when he attacks Ichigo, oh my god, the art. Kubo ain't lost a step when it comes to his character designs. Like, granted, we just got, you know, the Burn the Witch season 1 or whatever the case may be with the manga, and I heard that rang off. I actually never read it, I watched the anime. But yeah, Kubo, he came swinging with the art in this one. But then we cut to Kyoraku and some of the other captains, and there's like little balls that look like reishi, but Kyoraku says that no, this isn't actually reishi. And right here, getting even more exposition showcases that at the very least, of course, there's going to be another one shot, but with all these story elements and new characters being added, I don't know what the hell Jump is planning. And I know I keep bringing that up throughout this video, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got some long-term plans for Bleach, because he says these are will-o-wisps from hell. So this isn't actually like balls of reishi, you know, reiatsu, basically energy if you don't understand the terminology. And then he gives a breakdown that rei is a unit of measurement used by nobles, and on average it's 20 for a regular, you know, average person, then it's 5 or 4 for like a vice captain, then it's around like 3 or higher of reishi for a captain. And apparently a 3 or higher can't return to the Earth of Soul Society. So basically, if you have a Reiatsu of 3 or more, you can't return to Earth. You can't be like reborn or anything like that. Very, very interesting, because that just kind of throws the whole entirety and every thought you've ever had about Bleach upside down. Like the regular, you know, souls or whatever, the ones that basically Ichigo was sending away, they more than likely were being able to be reborn or just brought to Soul Society in general. However, the captains, especially Captain Commander and all that shit, which it also gets divulged later on in the chapter, basically were sent to hell. That Kubo came out swinging with this one. And every time they were doing those spiritual festivities where they were sending, you know, the souls or whatever, basically they just sent Unohana to hell. They just sent Captain Commander Yamamoto to hell. And then with what happens in this chapter, Ukitake just went to hell as well. Because basically souls that lost a place to go are sent to hell. Like, oh my god. It's kind of disturbing to think about. Like, these soul reapers, this whole time they thinking like, oh, you know, we're doing a nice kind gesture, you know, this is a festival and everything, which again makes me wonder, like, was Bach the one that created this whole idea of this festival to begin with? Like, who the hell created this stupid festival that is sending people to hell? And they get even further with it, saying that the balance has been broken basically after we lost the tremendous Reiatsu of Aizen and then Bach just recently as well, because apparently Aizen's Reiatsu, which Aizen, I can't wait to see him, you know, Kubo's bringing him back soon. Basically when they lost Aizen's Reiatsu, like, he was kind of keeping a guard over the mouth of hell because he had all of that Reiatsu, so losing him was a big deal, which I'm wondering, like, I guess it's because he's tied up there where they have him, you know, they got him locked back up again, so that's probably why, like, his Reishi and his Reiatsu ain't able to, you know, hold everything together. And basically them sending Yamamoto, Unohana, and again now Ukitake's souls down to hell forced open the mouth of hell from the other side. And then Zalaparo Grants adds the final bullet to it where he stabs through himself, and basically because they, you know, sent all those ghouls down there or whatever, he was the final bullet that ripped open hell. Because I guess Hellverse, the movie, wasn't canon, right? So that probably wouldn't be canonical. Likewise with that one shot, none of that is canon. This is the first time we're actually really divulging into the whole hell aspect fully as an arc in Bleach. And I never noticed that the butterflies that guide souls apparently have always had the word hell in them, so that must be like a Japanese kanji little tidbit or whatever. But that also is kind of crazy because apparently, like, that connects to, like, there was only certain souls of like certain caliber. Kubo did some really crazy mindfuck shit of wrapping all of Bleach and making it really sensible of what's going on in this chapter. And it ends off with, it says, Bleach, new breaths from hell, Howl from the jaws of hell arc. Story unfolds and we see Kazui at the end. So I don't know if they're gonna do some time skip and have Kazui be involved in all of this. Maybe like nobody is able to stop this, or I don't know what the hell is about to happen, or if this is going to, because they said arc, and obviously an arc isn't going to be like 1 or 2 chapters. I mean, it might be, but this could possibly be like every quarter we get another one shot from Bleach, and whatever it is, I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. It's been 5 years since we got the manga. It's been a decade since the anime. This is the big Bleach revival. Very, very curious though, you guys' thoughts, expectations, predictions, everything you felt about this Bleach one shot. How do you think this is all going to go? Oh my god, if this is opening the gates of hell, we're gonna see Ukiura more than likely. We're gonna see a lot of people that we've defeated in the past. I don't know if Bach will come back though, because like then we're gonna have like, I don't even know, a fucking 100 chapter series again. Like I don't know what they're gonna do, because you know Grimmjow is still alive, so Grimmjow probably still alive. Aizen is still alive, you know, he's just in captivity and shit, so they're not gonna return from hell. But a lot of people, pretty much majority of the Espadas that were killed might return. Like, this is gonna get crazy, especially if it's a big arc. And your overall thoughts and expectations for the future of Bleach? It's lit, baby. It's lit. Kubo back. That's all I have for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule. Anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in Bleach, new breaths from hell, new arc. Let's go!